Something that's pretty common in forms is showing some kind of inline warning message if the user arrives at some state that we don't want them to and we want to guide them back to the right place. So something that we might do here for our update form is, let's say if somebody goes ahead and deletes the task name or the assignee, they'll get this disabled button here, which is nice. We might also show a little inline warning saying that, like, hey, you need to give this field a value in order for it to work. So let's go ahead and let's try doing that. So what we know that we want to show this this warning whenever one of these values doesn't have is falsy. So one thing that we could do initially is we could go into our to-do form right here. And let's go ahead and let's give ourselves a little bit of space. And let's go ahead and let's add a span with the class name of warning. And we'll just hard code something in like field is required. And we'll hard code that for the moment for the assignee field as well. And we might say like, okay, we only want to show this if task name doesn't have a value. So we could go ahead and we could say if not task name, if task name doesn't have a value, and we'll show this. So this is using the AND operator, the AND logical operator here, as a way of saying if this is true, then show this is a common shortcut in JSX. The idea here is that if this is false, if task name does have a value, then the way that the AND operator works is that it will short circuit and not evaluate the expression that is on the right-hand side. So if this is false, if task name does have a value, then we won't even evaluate this span right here. It'll just not happen. But if it is true, if task name does not have a value, then we will go ahead and we'll evaluate this span, and the thing that this expression will resolve to, the thing that it will give to us, it will be this span. So let's go ahead and let's do the same thing down here, and we'll say not assignee, and we'll move the span up here. Let's go ahead and let's see what this does. This isn't exactly what we want, but so we can see something that we didn't like is that it flashed in there a little bit. But if we go ahead and we remove that, then we can see it shows up the way that we want. And if we enter a value back in, then that's all well and good for update. But if we go back to our create, where the default value of these is going to be blank anyway, this is kind of annoying. We don't really want it to be here by default for the create form. But because we have this to-do form, which is just the presentational component that's being shared between those two components, we can't avoid updating both of them. So what we want is we really want it to only be the case for the update form. So what we might do is we might introduce a new prop that either the update to-do or create to-do forms will give to the presentational component as a way of declaring its intention to use this warning message in the first place. And one way that we might do that is we might go ahead and just pass down the warning message itself. And the reason this might be nice rather than a field like show warning true or false is because then we could also be flexible for the future in customizing the warning message that we do send. So let's go to our update to-do component. And an initial approach that we might try here is we could go ahead and pass a prop like warning message and set it equal to field is required. And then in our to-do form, we might, in addition to checking for the absence of task name, we could also check for the existence of a warning message prop. So we could say if not task name and warning message has to be truthy. Then we'll evaluate this here, and we'll interpolate in the warning message. And we'll do the same down here for assignee. Let's go ahead and let's try this. See, and warning message, and interpolate in the warning message right there. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room. So let's see how this works now. So I'm going to go and I'm going to refresh. Still get a little flash right there, which I don't like. But now if we go ahead and we remove task name, then we get field is required. Same thing for assign to. But what's nice now is that because our create to do component is not giving a warning message, so it has different behavior. We kind of like ignore the warning message either way. So the thing that we want to get rid of is we want to get rid of that little flash right there. And the reason that's happening is because until the to-do is loaded by the single to-do component, we're going to have this initial state of task name and assignee being empty strings. So really, it's sort of like we only want to set this warning message after the task name, the initial task name and assignee have been loaded on. So the way we can do this is that instead of just hard coding the prop that we send down here to the to-do form, is we can add the warning message to the state of this component so that we can determine when it exists or not. So we can go ahead and let's add warning message, and we'll start it as an empty string, same as task name and assignee, so that initially it's not going to show anything. But then we can use our component will receive props right here, so that when we get the to-do and load in the default task name and assignee, we can also set the warning message to be field is required. So we'll go ahead and we'll take away our hard-coded prop and just include it now when we send down this .state. So now what will happen is when we initially render, task name and assignee will be falsy. They won't have a value, but warning message will also be falsy. So we won't render the warning message unnecessarily. And then later, once we do have a task name and an assignee, the warning message will be truthy. It'll be populated, but we'll have a task name and an assignee, so we still won't render the warning message. So the only scenario left where somebody is going to get that warning message is if they intentionally go ahead and remove task name or assignees. Let's go ahead and let's make sure that works. So we'll refresh and we see we don't get any flash right there, everything's okay. But if we go ahead and we remove a task name or an assignee, then we'll get the field as required. And adding them back in, we'll go ahead and remove them as well.